kiddo. I'm Grandma Goody, and I'm here to tell you a Bible story. And this one's from our series on the bullies of the Bible. Now, this is a very famous story. The story begins back in the land of Israel, and they have a king. Now, it's the first king the nation of Israel ever had, by the name of Saul, and their enemy were the people called the Philistines. They were at war with each other, and the Philistines had this giant of a man. His name was Goliath, and he was 9 feet tall. I mean, think of the tallest basketball player you ever saw, and then you think his head would only come up to maybe Goliath's shoulders. I mean, this dude was a big dude. He would come out, and he would every day for 40 days in a row, he would come out and he'd do what they called these days the trash talking. He would say to the nation of Israel, well, I am the champion of the Philistines, and I challenge any man among you. You pick out anyone, and we'll go 1-to-1. We'll fight each other, and if I win, I'll kill your man and you'll be our slaves. But if your man wins, then we'll be your slaves. It's a deal. And he was scary, and the people in the army, they were just shaking in their boots. There's a man by the name of Jesse, and he has 8 sons, and 3 of his sons, they are off with Saul in the army of Israel, and the youngest, the baby brother, goes by the name of David. His daddy comes to him and he says, David, I want you to go to the battlefield, and I want you to take these and give your brother some supplies, and then find out what's going on and bring me back a report. And he runs off to find his big brothers, and when he finds them, he runs up to them, and just then the giant Goliath steps out in front of the Philistine army, and he starts doing the trash talk, and he's taunting the people of Israel, and he's saying, send out a man to fight me. Send out, don't you even have one man who'd be sent out to fight me? I defy the armies of Israel. And so David was listening to this, and he starts asking questions, and the people on the side of the army of Israel, they start telling him, oh yes, Saul said that if any man would fight and kill this Philistine, he would get great reward. And so David's asking questions all around. And so King Saul called David into his tent. Well, David was riled up, and he says, who does this Philistine think he is? How dare he defy the armies of the living God? I'll go fight him. King Saul kind of laughed and said, oh, that's ridiculous. You're just a little boy. He's been a soldier since he was a little boy. And David says, no. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the claws of the bear, the Lord will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. So I guess David must have been pretty convincing, because King Saul said, okay, let's do it. But then he put on a big old helmet, a heavy metal helmet, put on a big old heavy breastplate, and he put on these big old bronze like shin guard. And David couldn't walk 2 steps, and he took it off, and he said, nope. I'm going to do it the way I do it out in the field, and the Lord is going to do it. His best weapon is that the Lord is with him. Now you got to picture Goliath. He's 9 foot tall, and here comes little David just walking along, no armor, no nothing. He's got his little pouch, his little sling, he's got his little shepherd's staff. Goliath also had another guy carrying his shield, so it's 2 against 1. But he's angry, and he comes out and he says, what? You think I'm a dog that you send this little boy out? Is this some kind of joke? Are you insulting me? And he roared at David. He says, what, you're coming at me with a stick? And he cursed David by the names of his gods. And he said to him, you know what I'm going to do to you, little boy? I'm going to take your flesh and I'm going to feed the birds with it. Well, I think Goliath was for the birds. David replied to the Philistine, you come at me with a sword, a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. And today the Lord will conquer you, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone here will know that the Lord rescues his people. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us. And then little David just reached into his pouch, and he put a little stone in a sling, and he went whoosh, 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 boom! And it struck that big old Goliath right in his forehead. And he might have had a big old helmet on, but there was a little tiny spot right there in the middle of his forehead that was not covered. And David's little stone got him right there, and it sunk right into his head. That's why you shouldn't be slinging stones at each other. You could hurt each other. But anyway, Goliath fell boom down on the ground. So the armies of Goliath, they turned and they ran away, and the army of Israel chased after them, and they had a great victory, and they won, and David got the rewards. Here's where you can find that story. It's in the Old Testament, and the name of the book is called 1 Samuel, and chapter 17. And then the verses are 1 to 52. So it's a long one, but there's a lot of exciting stuff in there. And then if you're using the secret code, you're going to look for the number 1, and then a capital S, and then a little A and a little M. And then the numbers are 1 all the way to 52. So kiddo, I hope you never have to face up any giant who would scare you like Goliath scared David. But I want you to remember that if you do, it's always best that if we turn to the Lord when we have battles like that. Anyway, you remember, kiddo, Grandma Goody loves you, but God loves you more.